Hello everyone, MFPallytime here, and welcome back to Baldur's Gate 3. Before we get into anything else, thank you guys so much for all of the love on the first part of our Tavern Brawler Monk guide. I asked you guys to smash that like button, and boy did you. So we are back with part 2. In today's video, I'm going to show you where to get all of the best gear for a Tavern Brawler Monk here in the largest city in the game. It's not exactly a secret that Tavern Brawler is very strong, but when you use it to its full effectiveness on a monk, you can absolutely demolish the entire game in front of you without barely lifting a finger. I also tried to add in a decent amount of defense, but we also get to turn that defense into even more offense with this setup as well. If all that sounds good, sit back, relax, and enjoy part 2 of our Tavern Brawler Monk guide. Before we are done, no one will be left standing. If you have any questions on how we got to this point right here, please be sure to check out part 1 of our guide. We're going to link it at the end of the video. It's going to be linked in the video description, and we might even drop down one of those cards right about now, just in case you need to catch up. We are a level 7 monk, level 3 rogue. We are using the thief subclass from rogue to get additional bonus actions so we can then use more flurry of blows per turn. The rest of our monk levels are very straightforward. Evasion lets us dodge out of certain spells. I've seen fireballs lobbed at me and I literally don't take any damage because we passed the dexterity saving throw. It's beautiful. And if you get charmed or frightened, your monk just snaps right out of it with stillness of mind. Then at level 11, we become a monk level 8. This is going to give us a new feat. With this feat, we want to take an ability improvement and increase our wisdom up to 19. Now, it looks like this is an odd number, but don't forget, we took the ability improvement from the hag in Act 1. So in reality, this is 20 wisdom, and we're going to need that wisdom to improve our damage. I'll show you how soon. And finally, at level 12, we gain even more unarmored movement, as well as these key resonation abilities. This allows us to kind of set up AoEs, and if you're using Mind Flayer powers like the Black Hole, where you can group up a lot of enemies together, this can be really fun AoE damage. However, my monk is designed to take down one target and take them down extremely quickly. So I found I didn't actually use these too much. I never really even thought about them. Leveling up your character properly is only one part of the puzzle, though. There is some extremely strong monk equipment that we are going to be able to find here in Act 3, and you don't have to wait long at all. In fact, our first item is waiting on the transition from Act 2 to 3. Our first item on the list is found inside of the astral plane. You're going to go here as you're transitioning from Act 2 to Act 3. I'm in turn-based mode to try and not spoil as much as possible here for any of you first-timers that are watching and trying to learn how to make a really strong character. In this area, there is a conflict between the Intellect Devourers and the Githyanki. If we go ahead and loot Prelate Lyric's body here, he was in possession of the boots of Uninhibited Kushigo. This is going to add our wisdom modifier onto our unarmed attacks. If you followed part 1 of our guide, you'll have 18 wisdom right now, which is giving you a modifier of 4. As we hit Act 3 and continue to level up, it is very easy to max out your wisdom at 20 and get the full benefit of the extra damage that these boots can give. As you arrive in Rivington, I would highly recommend stopping in at the Temple of the Open Hand. If you followed our part 1 guide, there were 2 pairs of gloves that were options. One more offense focused, the gloves of Cinder and Sizzle, and then the bracers of protection to be more defense oriented. If you have been using these since Act 1, I think there is a decent upgrade if you want to stop in and get it. The main problem with all that fire damage is it ignites the world around you. If you hit any surface that's flammable, you're going to take damage. Next pair of gloves solves that really easily. There is a dormitory on the western side of the Open Hand Temple, and I believe it's in the far left chest here inside of the dormitory. You may find the Seraphic Pugilist gloves. These do radiant damage instead of the fire from before, which will not ignite surfaces. This is more of a side grade than anything. I wanted to mention it just so you could cut down some of self-inflicted damage if that was a problem. There is a much better pair of gloves for our monk later in the act, and we'll be getting to that very soon. Our next stop is just further north down the bridge. You will have to go past a security checkpoint to get here, but once you do, there is a vendor that potentially has 2 items that we could use in our run. And I have an alternative just in case you don't like one of them. We're looking for Intharl inside of the Dancing Axe, and he's actually going to sell 2 really good items. The first of which is the Cloak of Displacement. I would recommend swapping out the Cloak of Protection at this point, because at the beginning of the wearer's turn, this cloak activates, granting disadvantage to everyone on attack rolls against you. That is up until the point that they land an attack against you, and then everything continues as normal. Until it's your turn again, and then you impose disadvantage on every single enemy combatant one more time. This cloak is amazing. Highly recommended. The helmet is the Horns of the Berserker. You gain a +2 bonus to attack rolls when attacking creatures that have already taken damage. Unarmed and melee attacks will deal an additional 2 necrotic damage as long as you don't have full health. So, you can set this up by having someone, my Astarion uses hand crossbows, shoot with your offhand crossbow shot. That brought my health down by 5 points, which triggers the full effect of the Horns of the Berserker. If you don't attack on one of your turns, you're going to take 1d4 damage, and that's just going to make it so you do have a reliable means of taking damage and proccing the effect of this helmet. I'll go ahead and show a demonstration of how that necrotic damage on the helmet actually gets applied to our attacks. So if we just hit 1 time, you can see we do 2 additional necrotic damage because of our helmet and because we're not at full health as we go in. If I just swing 1 more time, this guy will be taken down, and you can see that necrotic damage is still being added in. Most effects in the game that add in damage like this do not work with Monk. There are very, very few that actually work with unarmed attacks. Now, if I were to do a flurry of blows, this is multiple attacks. So we will also see the necrotic damage being added in twice on this flurry of blows. Now, 2 damage is not a lot. And if you don't like the idea of having to be damaged to get these effects, or take damage if you don't attack, I have a good alternative for you further inside the city. Inside of the lower city on the north side, kind of near Sorcerer's Sundries, just northwest of that, there's a place called the Devil's Fee. This is a very important location, and you'll be coming back here if you follow the rest of my guide, but we can stop in early and get a look at that helmet really easily. You can go here right as you get into the city. There's really nothing stopping you. In this back room, which I'm going to pick the lock of just like a monk should, Wait, that wasn't the roof. In this back room, I'm going to pick the lock just like a monk should, and we will see on the nightstand a gilded chest.
That might be worth a look.
Inside the gilded chest, nice, we find the Mask of Soul Perception. Also, some weird little coin. I don't know what that is. The Mask of Soul Perception is going to give our character +2 bonus to attack rolls. We don't have to do anything extra for it. We don't have to attack an enemy that's already been hit or lower our health to get bonuses. It's just always there. It's going to give us a +2 to initiative rolls and to perception checks as well. Something monks are already extremely good at with their wisdom score, we can get even better at. Next, we're going into Sorcerer's Sundries, and once again, you could get here right at the beginning of the act. You just have to walk over here. Inside, behind the main counter, there is an illusionary vendor. This vendor finally sells us a chest piece that will be an upgrade from the graceful cloth that we got in Act 1. It has been a long time coming, but they sell the Vest of Soul Rejuvenation. When the wearer succeeds a saving throw against a spell, they regain a little bit of HP. Sure, that's nice, but that's not why we're here. The wearer can use a reaction to make an unarmed attack against any attacker that misses. We are imposing disadvantage on every single attacker. So if they miss, we can then punch them for free and deal about 40 damage to the face. Then we also have a +2 AC. So even though we're losing some dexterity by putting this on, we actually gained AC by equipping it. For part 1 of our guide, I didn't mention a ranged weapon. Normally with my monk, I was throwing javelins, and I didn't really think about equipping anything. However, if you're following our guide, Damon is still alive. This is the blacksmith that eventually makes his way to the Last Light Inn from the Druid Grove and then to Baldur's Gate proper. If you talk to him, he sells a bow that you can pick up in Act 2, so you could actually get this earlier. This is the Darkfire Shortbow. The reason I would recommend you just have this equipped on your character is it gives you a free cast of haste, so if you ever don't have one from your other party members, you can do that on a whim. But even if you're not using your bow or not using the additional spell, this is still going to help you with mitigating fire and cold damage, boosting your defenses from would-be very long-ranged attackers. Kind of a cool pickup and something I didn't think about when I was making part 1 of this guide. Now, funny enough, in every single demonstration we've done for this build, I was only using an elixir of Hill Giant Strength. But you can find elixirs of Cloud Giant Strength that bring your strength even higher, up to a max of 27, all over the city of Baldur's Gate. Popper here inside of the carnival is one of the potential vendors for the elixir of Cloud Giant Strength. The problem is that they don't sell them reliably every day, so you need to get in the habit of checking each vendor. I'll show you a few vendors that are clustered together, but I'll have even more vendors listed down in the video description so you can hunt down these really good elixirs. So Popper doesn't have any for me, so it's time to check the next vendor. Also in Rivington, there is a merchant that can stand right here just across from the donations that can sell elixirs, but in my game, he's not here. I'm heading to the bridge. Across from the ancient sigil waypoint on the bridge in Rivington, there is Frago's Flophouse. If we go inside, Traveler Griska may sell us some of the elixirs we need. Hey, she's got one! Thank you! And once again, still on the bridge, Danthian's Dancing Axe, our good friend Intharl inside, has a chance of selling the elixir as well. Hey, lucky day! And actually, the next business on the floor above the Dancing Axe could sell us the same elixirs as well. But unfortunately today, we were not lucky with him. Now, there is no guarantee that these vendors restock every day, unlike Act 1. However, you can up your chances of finding these elixirs by simply resting without consuming food. That will reset the vendor's inventory and have a chance of restocking those elixirs. I'm just going to do a partial rest. We'll go to sleep, and then we'll refresh inventories all across the city. Hey, there we go. The alchemy guy restocked. Thank you very much. Some of you may not like this fact, but in order to get the best monk weapon, you're going to need to make a deal with the devil. I am at Sharess's Caress, back inside of Rivington. This is back on the bridge, and I'm going to show you the path to follow, but unfortunately, you're just going to have to take my word for it that Raphael is normally in this room. I record this series by going back through my save files, and unfortunately, I have like a 6-hour gap here where I was just using quick saves to move through everything. In this final room on the 3rd floor, you'll find the Devil's Den. Inside is Raphael, and he'll be talking to someone else in here. But as you approach, he will offer you a chance to make a deal. Take the deal. Don't worry, we're gonna break it later. Once you sign the contract, it's time to go break it. I actually wouldn't recommend doing this until you're about level 12, although I'm sure plenty of you will get by no problem. We're back in the Devil's Fee, and in order to go break our contract, we're gonna need a way to get to Hell. Once you poke around upstairs and take a look at Hell 6 inventory, you'll be able to tell her that curios don't interest me. I'm interested in the hells themselves, and I need to go to a place called the House of Hope. She's gonna give you all of the tools and instructions necessary to get there if you strike a deal with her. Once the portal is open, this is where the fun begins. Immediately as you walk towards the door to the north of the first room, you're going to encounter an NPC. This is Hope. She's in prison, and you need to save her. That is no easy task. The western side of the House of Hope houses the archive. This is where Raphael keeps all of his prized possessions. His most prized possession is locked away behind an impervious sphere. This is the contract that you signed earlier. If you want to get this back, that requires getting a key from somewhere else inside of the House of Hope. But if you look over on the other wall, we have another item that we are planning on picking up in here. This is one of the best amulets in the game, and it's located just over there. Now, if you steal this, you can technically take it right now. Pardon the pun. All hell is going to break loose. I'd highly recommend talking to the archivist who's been following you around this room, making sure you don't do anything too despicable. If you sweet talk him enough, he'll give you a key to get into the next area, and then you won't have to find another way around. Once you make your way into the northern chamber, congratulations, you're in Raphael's living quarters. Make sure you fully utilize the bath in here. It allows your party to full rest over and over and over again with no limitation. And considering you can't go back to camp here, that can be very valuable. Now, if you did not get the key from the archivist, there is another way of getting in here if you travel along the rocks on the eastern side of the House of Hope outside here. Now, our main goal is to get behind this painting. There is a safe here, and inside the safe is the password we need to get our contract back. If you push this button, a fight breaks out. There is a way to avoid that fight, but I'm not trying to get demonetized today. Every single time we do that, we don't make any money here on YouTube. We're not doing that today. Get behind the safe, get the password, and get back to the archive. Now, with Raphael's notes in hand and the password known to us, we can open up the impervious sphere and get our contract back.
The magic blinks away at your words.
Be ready. A devil does not so readily give up his toys.
No, he does not. There's a reason the game is saving right now. Tear the contract in two.
Blood suddenly runs cold. Raphael knows what you've done.
Oh, we're not done yet, Raphael. You just wait. Before I leave this room, I am going to grab our new amulet. The Amulet of Greater Health sets the wearer's Constitution score to 23. This means you could respec all of your Constitution away, just like you did with your Strength if you really wanted to. This is also going to give us a massive boost to our HP. We're at 99 health right now. By equipping this, we go up to 135. Look at how healthy we are. Now, don't forget, your work is not done here. We still have to rescue Hope. Hope is being held inside of a prison located on the southeast side of the House of Hope. This prison hatchway will lead you right to her. Be aware, though, that her guards are keeping an eye on her. If you beat them up and then use the Orphic Hammer to break the crystals binding her in position, well, you're at least one step closer to her freedom. Now that Hope has been freed, there's only one thing left to do. Beat up Raphael in his very own home.
Time slows for a moment, and the air becomes thicker. The master of the house is coming.
You.
Now, I'm not going to show you too much of this fight because it's one of the best in the game. And if you've never seen it, you owe it to yourself to experience it. You might be wondering, this was a lot of work. Were all of these steps really necessary to get this weapon? I mean, our monk is already doing pretty good damage. Spoiler alert. Yeah, they are. Look at these things. They're absolutely incredible. Now, it is important. I believe Hope has to stay alive during the fight in order for you to receive this reward. Make sure you keep her protected. If you're getting overwhelmed, hold on, you can just bring her into this room and close the door as the fight is going on, and that is a pretty big layer of protection for Hope if you need that. Now, as for the gloves themselves, your unarmed strikes deal an additional 1d10 damage. Most other monk weapons in the game only add that 1d4 of various elements. Already, this thing is massive. The soul catching bonus is also so good. Once per turn, on an unarmed hit, you regain 10 hit points. We're unarmed, hitting every turn. Great, we have self-sustain. If you don't want that healing, you can forego it to receive advantage on every attack roll and saving throw until the end of our turn, making us much more likely to hit our enemies. The constitution that this gives doesn't really benefit us because we already have that increased health from the Amulet of Greater Health. Don't let that deter you though. The Gloves of Soul Catching are by far the best monk weapons in the game. And they better be after making you go through all of that to get them. Now, what about our ring slots? Well, lucky for us, we kind of hit our stride really early in the game with rings. I genuinely think that the Risky Ring and the Ring of Protection that we picked up both in Act 2 and covered how to get in our Part 1 of this guide are going to be your best options. If you don't like the downside of the Risky Ring, I'd highly recommend picking up Crusher's Ring, which you can find inside of the Goblin Camp in Act 1, that would just give you more movement speed and allow your monk to move around fights even more effectively. So you've made it all the way to the end of the video. If you followed this guide so far, you have a one-man killing machine. Your monk's damage should have skyrocketed throughout Act 3, and let me tell you, it was already impressive in Act 1 and 2. There is one more thing you can do to increase your damage, and I'm adding it in here at the very end of the video. Number one, because it's a controversial quest line, not everybody agrees on the outcome, not everybody enjoys the outcome. And number two, I didn't want you to think it was mandatory to do this. You will have an incredibly strong monk, even if you do not do this last step. However, if you want to do the most damage possible as a monk, that means playing as Astarion. I swapped him out at one point. Did you notice? This is all the exact same gear that we've been talking about, the same elixirs that we've been talking about. However, we are a vampire ascended by following Astarion's quest line. This adds an additional 1d10 necrotic damage onto each of our attacks. Look how ridiculous this can be. This is the same demonstration we have done many times. Watch as we annihilate it this time. Deflecting a missile back at our would-be attacker. Let's see how much damage that does. He's dead. Oh, let's just go ahead. Our one punch did 54 damage to this poor man. He had a family. If we do a toppling blow at this point, I don't think that they will be toppled. I think they're going to explode. Now, the Vampire Ascendant damage stacks with these passive bonuses that we get as a monk. It also stacks with the bonuses on top of our gloves that we were going crazy about. That extra 1d10 of force damage there, that's so good. Well, we have a passive extra 1d10 on all of the time, ready to go if you become an Ascended Vampire. Look, with the Kushigo strike. Oh, he doesn't even have a chance, bro. Come on. Now, again, if you're trying to min-max and get the most out of your character, you will want to be an Ascended Vampire Astarion for this build. It is not required, and you will have an excellent time on your monk by following this guide, playing as literally any character of any race. And I hope you guys do make the effort to do this. It's such a fun way of playing through the game. I have absolutely adored my time on Monk so far. It feels appropriate to close out our Monk video on top of the open hand temple, I think. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, you're an absolute legend. If you did enjoy today's video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button. As I'm sure you can imagine, this kind of content takes a ton of time to make. Ton of research to make as well. I genuinely believe this is one of the strongest monk setups that anyone can achieve. But if you would like to change anything, let me know why down in the comments. I think that's one of the greatest things about this game. One minor tweak to the build could have it playing differently and fielding a different role out on the battlefield. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed. More class guides are coming soon, so stay tuned.